regularly scheduled programming will not be seen, so that we may bring you live coverage of the Democratic National Convention.
Decision 92, the Democratic National Convention. Here is Tom Brokaw.
Good evening once again from Madison Square Garden in New York City, the second night of this Democratic National Convention, a night in which mixed messages from this party were sent out across the land. In its platform, especially on economic issues, the party has moved smartly to the center, but at the same time, there was a very strong indictment of the Bush administration by former President Jimmy Carter, who made a triumphant return to Madison Square Garden tonight, and then a poignant and dramatic appeal by two victims of the HIV virus for more research in that particular area. This was the night as well in which the women of the Democratic Party are being featured, because many of them are running for statewide office and especially for the United States Senate at this time. And then finally, just a few moments ago, a vintage and electrifying appearance by the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who has had at best an arm's length relationship this week, particularly with Bill Clinton. He came here tonight to be part of the presentation of the Democratic Party platform, but he gave what can only be described as a pure Jesse Jackson speech. NBC's John Chancellor is here with me as well. John, there's been some discussion, obviously, about how much of an impact this will have on the kind of message that Bill Clinton would like to send out, which is that this is a more centered Democratic Party.
Well, there's disagreement even among our own colleagues on that, and I tend to believe that in a speech that does not mention either member of the ticket by name, in a speech that emphasizes the old-time religion of the older Democratic Party, that this may not have been precisely what Bill Clinton had in mind tonight. I think former President Carter's speech was much closer to the target that they had set for themselves, but we'll have a chance to ask him that.
We will indeed. The former president will be with us in just a few moments. Let's go to the floor now to NBC's Tim Russert, who is down there. Tim, my own impression is that the Clinton people probably are relieved that it didn't get wildly out of control. There was no direct indictment of Bill Clinton. In fact, he did mention his name briefly, John, at the beginning, and also Al Gore's, but only kind of in passing. What's your judgment, Tim?
Absolutely, Tom. And Reverend Jackson, as he said to me, he was going to be personally conciliatory to Bill Clinton and Al Gore. One of the Clinton people just walked by and said, "We dodged the bullet." It was not a perfect speech in their mind. They would prefer to have a much more centrist philosophy expressed, but that's not Reverend Jesse Jackson. And all things considered, they believe that the message he put forward tonight was one of conciliation towards Bill Clinton and Al Gore, and certainly challenging somewhat the drift of the party to the center, but nothing that will hurt them in a large way.
All right. Thank you very much, Tim Russert. Somebody else who made a very strong speech tonight, who returned here, and I think that it's not unfair to me to describe this in a completely renewed way, Mr. President. You even made mention of it yourself, Jimmy Carter. You were very tough on the Bush administration here tonight.
Well, I tried to express things that have